Hi everyone, and welcome to the third unit for your Diploma of Events. This is the Effective Leadership Cluster, which comprises of 4 assessments, which we'll be going through together in this one webinar. My name's Nikita, and you'll remember me from your previous events and business webinars that you've come across. So what's today's purpose? Today I'm going to be breaking down all 4 assessments for you in this webinar. They are quite a lot smaller, so it's really nice that they've been clustered together like this, and they do comprise mostly of role plays that you can either undertake with me on the phone, Skype, or in class if you're a Brisbane student, or you can do this with your friend or family member and videotape them and then send them in as a video file. You can upload that straight to the LMS. You can also do it as a YouTube video and just list it as an unlisted video as well. So there are a number of ways where you can do the role plays, but they're the big focus of this unit because it's going to be really going through understanding and demonstrating your ability to be able to communicate with your team and being an advocate for them. So that's the purpose of this entire unit. So the session's going to run. I'm going to have, if you've seen these webinars before, I normally have the unit breakdown up on the screen. So I'll be doing that again for you guys as well. You can follow along on my unit breakdown, or you can have your own version if you've printed it out, or on your own screen or something if you want to take notes while it's happening. You can also print off your assessments and take notes on that one if that's how you like to study. I'm pretty old school, so I like to take a lot of notes. So completely up to you. How can you get the most out of the webinar? Well, the beautiful thing about these videos is that you can stop and start them when you like. You can skip forward to an assessment that's relevant for you and rewatch them as many times as you like. If you have any other questions outside of the webinar, feel free to contact me on my email, phone, or just with Skype or something like that as well. And texting is really awesome. So all my contact details will be at the end of this video as well if you don't already have them. After the webinar, if you have any other questions, feel free to get in contact with me. We can do a coaching call as well if you'd like. Otherwise, you'll do your assessment and complete it with a lot of clarity, hopefully. Upload that one and get that big green tick that we're all after. So we're going to get started. So I'll pull up the first assessment for you as well. So as I said previously, the assessment itself is all about demonstrating your ability to communicate with your team members. So these assessments are chronologically, they run off of each other. So you're going to be the new, I believe it's the new National Administration Manager for a domestic travel team. So you're going to really be talking a lot about the objectives of the team, any corporate goals that they've got, any organizational goals that they should be aligning themselves to, as well as really having open communication channels about where we're moving forwards in our performance. So just pull up this one here. So this is the unit breakdown. So everything in here, I've also included the templates that you'll be using as well to fill out after your role plays. So we'll be able to go through those together as well. Cool. So as I said, you're the new National Administration Supervisor for the domestic travel team. So assessment 1 is where you're more introducing yourself. So in this scenario, you've just gotten the job. So you're now going ahead to try and make the changes and filling in an action plan of how your team can improve, what they need to improve on, and what our methods are going to be able to monitor and review that. So in this first assessment, you've been given a new email message, which is from your supervisor. So this is a resource that you need to download from the LMS, which will contain the information needed to be able to start filling out this table that you're going to be doing for your action plan template. After reviewing the information in your new email message, you're going to use a template that I'll show you in a second, and that needs to have a really clear plan for each team member. So you've got 4 team members as well. So you'll find their information. You won't have any names or anything, just the titles of what they actually do within that email message. And this is where we're going to be going through and filling in that first table as well. So we want to make sure that your action plan allocates a task to be completed by each team employee. So I want at least 2 tasks per employee. These tasks and everything are going to be coming from your own initiative of what you think needs to change based on your new email message and the other resources that you have in your LMS. So that's like the company file and the code of conduct. So what can you ascertain from those resources? What needs to change or what needs to be a task for a certain team member? So again, this unit is very much about your communication and your understanding of how a team should run perfectly. So the answers won't be in there of what each team member should be doing, all up to you. You also want to make sure that you're identifying the objectives for the roles in relation to the company file that I've just mentioned. So you really want to make sure that each role has its own individual objective, because they won't all be focusing on the same thing necessarily. You also want to make sure that it sets the performance standards of the task, including timeframes and incorporating standards from the code of conduct. So again, using the code of conduct that I've mentioned previously, it's downloadable as a PDF on your LMS. You really want to make sure that your performance standards are adhering to that code of conduct. So what kind of standards are you setting them? Is there a specific turnaround for receipting time? And maybe they need to be within 1.5 hours, and maybe somebody's taking too long on that. So that will be a performance standard there. And you also want to make sure that these timeframes are included in that task as well. So how long are you giving for them to be able to complete that task, and what's the standard that they need to adhere to? You would also want to make sure that the action plan maintains the elements of any performance standards. So making sure that the timeframes are included and that the quality is there as well. So before I go on to the second little part here, we just want to make sure that we are all on the same page with the action plan. The action plan is pretty straightforward. Your team member, so you're just specifying the individuals in your team in this first column here. You want to make sure that your name is up here, so prepared by, as you're the new national supervisor. The team members, you can make up names if you want to, but I really need to see their actual their actual title in here. So are they a domestic consultant? Are they a corporate consultant? What is it that they do, and how do they differ in here? So that's where you really want to see where those individualized objectives and tasks come in. So here you'll put in their title, your objectives. So I want a minimum of 2 specific objectives for that role. So that specific role, which will be based on your company file and the new email message that you've received from your supervisor. So you can ascertain what their objectives should be. What should their goals be? What are they aiming for? For the tasks, how can they achieve those goals? So if you've got your 2 goals in your objectives column here, your tasks need to be able to show me that's how they would achieve that goal. So you want to really break it down here. You might have 2 tasks, you might have 4, depending on how you think it should work. So that's completely up to you of what tasks should be completed. Then you've got the performance standard. So what's the standard that is expected here? So for instance, if a task is receiving time, so maybe a turnaround ticketing time or something for one of the consultants, what's the performance standard? What do you expect that to be? So is it 1.5 hours? Is it 2 hours? What needs to happen? And when do they need to achieve those tasks by? So like I said, the action plan itself is pretty straightforward. You just want to make sure that you're filling in everything quite clearly. So I really wouldn't recommend writing paragraphs or anything in this table. You really just want to have clear dot points that really outline your expectations, what the objectives are, what the tasks are that are going to be able to help you achieve those objectives, and when that needs to be done by, and what performance standard that's being held against. So that's the first part here in task A. So again, just using the email message from your supervisor to tell you what you're actually looking for. It will list your consultants and who they are. And then using the company file and the code of conduct to be able to come up with the objectives, the tasks, and the standards that they're being held against. The second little part here, as you're now the direct supervisor, we want to find some information out about you. So this little quiz that you're going to be doing, found at this link here, is really take your time with it. It's a very individualized quiz and everything else as well that really shows what kind of leader that you are. And it's really interesting to see all of your individual responses to this as well, because it's something that will carry on throughout this assessment as well, to show you what your leadership style is, how it will bring positive outcomes to your team, and how you can really utilize that. So I want you to do that leadership quiz and then take a screenshot of your results and paste that into the document for me. So you can just pop that into the same document. I'm not really too fast on formatting, but I'm really keen to see that one. So that's your second part here. So once you've done your action plan, fill in your leadership quiz and screenshot the results for me, and that way we can see what kind of leader that you are. So a little action plan. Perfect. So once you've completed your action plan and you've got your results of your leadership style, what we're going to do here is write some type of communication. So you can either do this as a written speech, so if it's something that you would then present to your team members in a verbal communication format, or if you're wanting this to be like an introductory email or a formal letter, however you want to communicate this or however you feel would work best for you, that's how I want you to set this out. What you're needing to do in this communication is really focus on these dot points here. So first you want to introduce yourself to the team. This is really important because it's supposed to be quite a positive email of the changes that are going to be coming, and you really want your team to be on board with those. So as you may know from personal experience, sometimes you get a new leader or a new team member, and there might be that time where it's still, you're getting used to each other, feeling each other out, like, oh, you know, is this going to be a good fit? Do personalities clash? You know, what's happening? So this is really one of those communication strategies, I guess, where you really want to make sure that you're coming off on the right kind of tone and that you're making a good impression with your team. So make sure that you're opening up your email or your communication with a friendly introduction. You really want to inspire your team and get them pumped up for the positive changes that are coming their way. With your introduction as well, you can make up a backstory if you want. So you've just been appointed as the new national administrator supervisor. So maybe you might have something about your experiences or where you've come from. Again, completely up to you. This is an individualized communication plan, but up to you of how you want to go about it. But I would definitely suggest keeping the tone quite friendly. You also want to include an explanation of the work that's to be undertaken by the team and your expectations about the performance. So we now know from your email that you've had previously from your own supervisor and the action plan you've come up that there are improvements that need to be made to make sure that the team is as effective as possible, that they're coming up with really great results and that they're working really well together as well. So you want to ensure that your expectations are clearly set out here. So you've got your action plan as well, which would in a perfect world be an accompaniment to your communication plan here. But you really want to come up with your expectations that you've put into your action plan. Make sure that it's really set out clearly. Even put in some team expectations. So it might be something, you know, like team expectations of everybody turns up to work on time. Or everybody comes to work with a positive attitude. They might be simple team expectations that you're putting in place. You also want to have a really great explanation of what the changes are that are happening. So discuss the changes, why they're happening, and what you hope to achieve from that. Once you've done that, you're going to go into your leadership style and really describe what that is. So there are a lot of different type of leaders. You would have come across quite a few in your own workspaces or any kind of environments as well. A lot of people have different ways of managing teams or leading teams. So you might have micromanagers, you might have laissez-faire, anything like that. So you might want to do some research into that one as well. But we're really talking here about your own leadership style. So what was your quiz result, and how is that going to be taken in by the team? So is it going to be quite a relaxed type of leadership style if that's what you are? And if so, how will that work? So will it just be like a meeting in the morning and then just let everybody go and do their thing and just hope for the best? Are you going to be micromanaging everybody to make sure that every little thing's happening? What's your style? There's no right or wrong answers for any of these either. You just want to really explain and be clear of, this is who I am as a leader, this is how it's going to work within the team, and what's a positive aspect of it here. So what are the best things that are going to be happening for the team in relation to your leadership style? So go straight into explaining how your leadership will act as a positive role model to the team. So again, how does your leadership style impact your team in a positive way? After that, you're just going to request that the employees review the plan and provide feedback. This is, again, just opening that communication channel between your team and yourself. So just because you've set the action plan up doesn't mean that it's not negotiable or that you're not open to new ideas. And as a new leader, it's really important to start building that trust relationship as well. So that's something I'll be looking for within your communication, to make sure that you're building rapport with your team and that it comes off in a positive tone of, we're in this together. We really want to make this work, and that you're a massive advocate for your own team. So ensuring that the request is just a simple, just a really simple and professional request still of, please have a look at the action plan and then come to me, my door's always open, that kind of opening of a communication channel, really there. And that is the end of task A. Perfect. Okay, so we've done our action plan and we've done our leadership quiz. Now we've done the little communication plan as well, to just say hi to everybody and make sure that they understand what's going on. So we're going to be moving into task B. So as mentioned previously, your direct reports have not maintained their performance standards in the absence of a direct manager, which is now you. As you put your plans in place to reinstate these standards, it is important for your employees to have a clear understanding of how their performance during this period will be monitored. So here what we're doing is we're going to outline the activities to be performed, and we're going to also generally outline the performance indicators or KPIs and the measures that you're going to be looking for to meet the outcomes. So the performance plan, it can be set out in a couple of different ways. It says use Microsoft Web. If you want to use Microsoft Excel to create a table, if that's easier, up to you. But the plan really does need to be clear. So for me, I would probably set this performance plan out similar to an action plan. So you can even use the same template and just change it around a little bit to suit your needs and everything else. It's completely up to you how you want to do it. You can do it as a report as well if that's easier for you. But you just really want to make sure that your plan is clearly outlining the outcomes that you're looking for, what objectives need to be met, and the strategies in place for reviewing and measuring the targets as well. So you've given 2 dot points that need to be included, which is the reviewing the performance and measuring the targets that are set. But yeah, I would really encourage you to have a similar table to this, which will have like what your team member again, and then what they're needing to improve on. Cool. So my little tip for this one is that you do have on your assessment, it mentions a performance management and training policy that you might wish to review. Unfortunately, this document was never made available to us by the RTO. It has been requested and that's still not come through. So I'm not sure if it's an out-of-date resource for this unit. It's not necessary to complete the actual assessment. So you can, if you want to find a policy, you can find one online and use it as an example. But really what you're doing here is just using the knowledge that you have from your action plan from that email to create the performance plan, set some targets, and then monitor them. So for example, if we go back up to our action plan, you might have, instead of like a time frame, you might have your monitoring methods. So you might be having things like weekly meetings, monthly meetings, performance appraisals, that kind of thing. But really explaining how you're going to be measuring the performance of your staff members. So is it going to be from sales targets? Is it going to be from number of complaints, all that kind of stuff? So that's where we're really looking for here. Once you've done that performance plan, again, I'd probably stress to do it as a table, just because that way it's all neat and tidy and everything else, and it's all really coherent and what you're trying to achieve there. Once you've done that, you want to make sure that you're going to be able to communicate this performance plan with your employees. So with these changes, we're going to make a PowerPoint presentation. It's not a big scary thing. It doesn't need to be big and fancy. In fact, I prefer it not to be. It's just going to be more of an introduction for a bigger group scale, really, of what this performance plan is and how it's going to work. With PowerPoint presentation, I really do stress that less is more. You don't want to overload one of your screens or something with too many dot points or too many visuals or anything else. Visuals are excellent to include just to kind of reach out to all those different learners out there. For me personally, I'm a visual learner. I really like to have pretty pictures to look at and charts and all that kind of stuff. So if you're going to include one of those, I would probably say, one visual per PowerPoint slide. With the PowerPoint, you want to make sure that your presentation is going to include, so this is the content, you want to have an introduction to the performance plan and how it aligns with a performance management and training policy that will be in place. So again, you don't need to have this in there, you just need to have some kind of idea of what that policy could look like. So even if you just make up some things for your own policy and everything and include that in there, that's totally fine. But you really want to make sure that staff members will understand why this performance plan is coming into it and how it aligns with the organizational goals. So you would use examples as well. So, maybe for the domestic consultant, their ticketing time, again, we'll go with that one, needs to be 1 hour or 1.5 hours. So then that would align with maybe the organizational goal of having, a specific ticketing time around that. So that performance plan then would ensure that they would be able to hit that organizational goal as well as their own targets, which would be how it would align with the training policy. You want to support and encourage your employees to be able to assist them to achieve their targets. So again, the tone of this presentation should be quite positive, really encouraging, really try and pump them up to know that they can do better, that you're there to assist them and to help them. You're not a threat to them just because you're a new leader and everything else. So it's more, I'm really looking about that communication and that overall tone of your presentation as well. You also want to explain how a performance plan will help the employees work towards the company goals. So again, you can use examples, but more it's just about making sure that they understand why this is happening. So sometimes a lot of employees can be resistant to change, especially if something's been done a certain way since the beginning of time or since they've started there. And especially when a new leader comes into the business and they're quite new, so maybe they haven't been in the business for as long, or maybe it's a younger person, you know, there's all kinds of factors that come into this as well. So this is more about really trying to explain the positives of it, why a performance plan is needed and why it will help, and what's in it for them really. So what do they get out of that? So maybe if they're hitting their targets, they're getting better commission, so that might be a big yay for them. But again, it's all about how you communicate this to them. You're also explaining the roles of both the supervisor, which is you, and the employee in the performance plan process. So this is, again, kind of going back to the second point about supporting and encouraging, but it's also really about how you're going to help them with this performance plan. So that's going to be how you're monitoring everything and reviewing their progress. So you can also discuss things like, oh, we're going to be doing monthly appraisals, or we might be doing monthly one-on-one meetings, just so that there's an open communication channel. But really, this is all meant to be quite a positive vibe to this whole thing. So my little tip here again is that it doesn't need to be an extensive PowerPoint presentation. It can be 5-6 slides. I really don't mind. So I'm not expecting, 40 slides and all these like really cool fonts and all that kind of stuff. That doesn't need to happen. So again, less is more. So visuals are great, but don't overcrowd it. Dot points are really awesome, but maybe have 2 or 3 to a screen if you're going to do that. But most of it will just be what you're really coming across in your role play brief. So setting this up really nicely now and being able to have a good PowerPoint presentation will really set you up for greatness in your role plays. I know how everybody really just loves the role plays, so it's going to be a really handy little tool to use for that one if you've done it really nicely in the beginning here as well. Nice little segue into my role play brief overview here. So what happens with this one is that you've done, pretending that you've done your presentation to the greater team, except for one person. So in the role play brief, his name is John Smith, and he was away for your presentation. So basically what you're doing in this role play is presenting your PowerPoint and your plan for the performance plan to me, which is going to be great. Otherwise you can do it with a friend or a family member and just film that one for me. So what you're needing to upload though is uploading your PowerPoint presentation, so that if it's a video file that you're sending me, I can still follow along on your PowerPoint presentation and listen to your conversation with your friend or family member who's playing the role of John Smith. Completely up to you how you want to do this. So if you want to do the role plays with me, you just want to book in a coaching call or something, we can do them over the phone or over Skype. If you're a Brisbane student, you're more than welcome to come into the classroom and do them with me here. Otherwise, yeah, videos are totally fine. You can upload it as a YouTube video, but have it as an unlisted, so you can't see it without the link. That way you're not going to be having 1.1 million views and being the new famous YouTube star. Otherwise, you can just upload it as an MP4 video file for me. With this role play brief, again, you're just going to be going through that PowerPoint and just making sure that I understand, or that your role player understands what's happening with the performance plan. So again, you just really want to touch on those 4 dot points that are in the actual PowerPoint, and then just really making sure that during your role play, your communication is really open, it's really positive, if especially on video or in person, that your body language is really open and relaxed, and just making sure that it's not I'm telling you what this is, it's just an open communication channel of how we can help each other achieve the organizational goals, while also hitting all the performance standards and everything else and improving on that. So again, positivity is key for this entire unit. Perfect. Cool. Alrighty. So once you've done your role play and your awesome PowerPoint presentation, and you guys are masters of this, we're going to be moving on towards your task C, which is again an open communication to all of your employees, which is going to be going through your team really. So as the direct manager for the domestic travel team, which is your new fancy team, it's important that your team knows that you're an advocate for them. So what I've been saying all along basically is just that you need to be your team's #1 cheerleader. So that's with anything. This is a skill or a really awesome bonus point for you to take into a workplace is that even if you're not the manager, even if you're just a team member or anything like that, you want to be your team's biggest advocate, because if the team believes or you believe in your team, they'll start believing as well. Nobody else is going to believe in you unless you believe in you. So there's that age-old saying. So with this one as well, the business itself has been raising some concerns for the effectiveness of your team. And it's timely for you now to assure everybody that you have every confidence in your team to reach the standards that are expected. So this is going to be an open communication to the entire business to show them what your team's performance was prior to your arrival, what standards you've now set since you've started being the leader for this team, and then seeking support and feedback on their progress. So it's also making sure that the business is involved in the success of your team. So again, this can be like an email that you can send out to your team and to the greater business as well. You still want it to be formal, but you do definitely want it to be a really positive tone to it and everything else, and having that ultimate outcome of being amazing for your team. So again, you want to discuss where the team started. So what kind of figures did they start with? What were you really working with? How are they going to progress and improve? So this is where you can discuss your performance plan. It doesn't need to be in detail, but you can discuss some examples of what will be happening and how you're reviewing and monitoring it, and then improving what the ultimate outcome is for them then. So really just making sure that you're the team's biggest supporter, and that the email reads with a positive narrative and instills that confidence in your team as well as into the greater business. And that is the end of assessment 1. So quickly recap, because there's quite a lot of elements to this one. So we start off with your whole congratulations on being the new leader. So yay you. You've gotten a new email message that's been left for you by your manager, which will contain information on your team and what you're currently working with. From that, you're going to create your action plan template, where you're going to identify objectives for your roles, so each individual role from your company file, and using the code of conduct, which is all on your LMS, to set the performance standards for those tasks. So this is what that one looks like. So you've got your team member. So again, you don't really need to make up names or anything unless you totally feel like it. But really, I just want your team members, so like whether they're a domestic consultant, a corporate consultant, or whichever, what their objectives are. So again, these need to be individualized. Not everybody will have exactly the same objectives. We need a minimum of 2. You can have more than that, but it needs to be a minimum of 2. What tasks are going to be in line with those objectives? So what do they need to do to be able to achieve that objective? What's the performance standard? So again, you're going to be using the code of conduct to come up with that one. So what's your performance standard that you're holding them to? And when do they need to have that completed by? Once you've done that, you're going to do your leadership quiz and find out all about you as a leader and what your strengths and weaknesses are and all that awesome stuff. Once you've got that, you're going to write a communication, which can be an email, a speech, whatever you want, to your team, where you're going to introduce yourself with a friendly introduction of telling them all about you and getting them pumped up for the positive changes that are coming their way. You're explaining what the work is that's needing to be undertaken by your team and what your expectations are about their performance. You're going to talk a little bit more about you and describe your leadership style, and then segue right into that on how your leadership is going to be a positive role model to your team. So how are you going to impact them positively? And you're also going to request that your employees review the action plan that you've set out and provide any feedback. So again, it's an open communication channel. It's not a non-negotiable, this is what you need to do thing. You're really opening up that communication. Once you've completed that, you're going to set your performance plan. Again, I would really recommend you to set it out as a table, so similar to your action plan, just so it's all really clear and precise of what's happening. With that performance plan, you're going to be setting everything out to make sure that you're discussing how you're going to review that performance and monitor the targets that have been set. So these are your KPIs. These are all going to come from what needs to be improved based on your action plan. So you just want to make sure it's really clearly set out again. So again, similar to your action plan here, but you can use the same template, just change the top things here to make sure that you're able to see what's needing to be undertaken, how that's going to be measured, and when the reviews are happening. Once you've done that performance plan, you're going to create a PowerPoint presentation, which is going to discuss the performance plan being implemented into your little team and everything there as well. Again, the PowerPoint does not need to be extensive or fancy or anything like that. You don't need to have a whole bunch of word art or fancy things coming in from all sides of the screen. Less is more. I don't mind if it's 6 slides or something long, as long as it's not something like 45 or 50 slides. That's a bit much. So we want to make sure that it is quite cohesive, quite simple, but that all your information is in there. Visuals are great. Keep it 1 to a slide. So if it's going to be a chart, 1 per slide, and dot points, maybe 2, 3 per slide as well, just so you're not overloading each slide as well. With this one, you really want to make sure that it's set up properly for your role play brief, as it's going to be one of the things that I'm looking at while we do this. If we're, either we're doing it over the phone or if it's a video file that you sent me through, I'll still be looking at this to make sure that everything's been covered. In your role play, the biggest thing that you want to really discuss here is making sure that your body language and your actual tone is really quite positive and open. You really want to make sure that you're opening a communication channel. It's not just a lecture. So that's really what we're looking for in the role play. Once that one's done, you're going to go into task C, and that's where you're creating a communication to all the employees of your organization, so the greater business, to make sure that they know how amazing your team is going to be, that you're their #1 cheerleader, and that you're always seeking support and feedback on progress for your team as for yourself as well. And that wraps up our little assessment 1, which is all about basically in setting yourself as a new leader and everything, and being the biggest advocate ever. So from there, we're going to go into assessment 2, which again is a role play. And what we're doing here is we're going to use one of your performance appraisals now. So we'll assume that there's been some type of few months now, maybe 3-4 months that have passed since you've put into place the performance plan. And now we're going to have another meeting with John Smith about his performance over the last couple of months. So you want to, again, with this role play, either do this with me over the phone in class or over Skype. Otherwise, have your friend or family member record this with you as a video file, upload it straight into the LMS or as an unlisted YouTube video, however you want to do it. But what we're doing here is you're following the performance appraisal procedure, which is an LMS document that you can download to conduct your performance appraisal for one of your direct reports, which is your domestic consultant or corporate consultant, John Smith. During this appraisal, you need to use the performance appraisal template to document your discussion. You're also going to identify and document a minimum of 1 training activity for the employee. So there'll be information in the role play brief about where John is wanting to go with his career, what he's currently up to. So this is where you'll be getting that information as well. And you're going to mentor the employee to support and encourage their individual career goals. So while they may be in this job title now, maybe that's not where they want to be, and it's your job as their leader to make sure that they're feeling encouraged to be able to reach above and beyond. So with this one, this is your performance appraisal template. So this is what you're going to be filling out while the role play is taking place, or you can do it afterwards. So it just needs to reflect the conversation that you've had. So your employee is going to be your employee's name, so John Smith, your role, so what does John do, and the date of your performance appraisal. With the review dates here, this is where we're going to be looking at what our tasks are, key outcomes, and the actual performance. So we want a minimum of 3 tasks and areas of responsibility that John is responsible for. So you want to list them just here. Again, dot points is totally fine. I'm not expecting big paragraphs in these tables at all. What is the key outcome? So describing what doing the job well looks like here using the SMART principles. So what kind of goals are we setting him for this one here? So the SMART principles are things that we've discussed previously as well in your other subjects, which is just making sure that it's a SMART goal. So we want to make sure that here we're putting in proper goals of, they've got timeframes around them, they're measurable goals, they're realistic, they're achievable, and that they're just properly placed into here as well. With your actual performance, it's going to be more about what is actually happening within his job role. So again, in the role play brief, there's going to be some issues that he may be facing. There may be some targets that he's not reaching. So what's actually happening over the last few months? Has he improved at all? Has it gotten worse? So you really want to have a look there of what he's doing at the moment. Once you've done your comments on his performance, you also want to have some review dates there. So when are you going to go back and review this specific goal or this specific task to make sure that it's improving or that there are changes happening? So you can set a date there as well, or you can just say, you know, time frame. So like 2 weeks from today, a month from today, whatever works for you. You got little signature parts here that you can just scribble on or just write something nice there. And then for the second part, you've got your development agreement. So this is where we're going through for what he wants to develop on. So whether it's a training need or if it's a skill that he wants to upgrade, anything like that. So what areas of development are there for him? So you can insert task, skills, or behaviors that need to be developed. So you can have up to 3, maybe more if you want one. But yeah, minimum is 1. So you just want to tell me what the area for development is and what the actions are that is going to help that development. So it could be anything like class training at TAFE. It might be on-the-job training or coaching from someone with the required skill. So what is he going to do to be able to complete that development and being able to achieve a new level in that skill? And that is the end of assessment 2. So just recapping, you've got another awesome role play. I know that you guys love them, so I can't wait to see them all. Where you're really going to be just discussing his performance appraisal. So what's been happening with John over the last few months since you've implemented that performance plan? How's he actually doing? So the big important one here is just to make sure that this is filled out in its entirety. So making sure that you've got the employee name, the employee's role, and the date of this appraisal. It's a formal document, so you want to make sure that this is all documented properly. What the tasks are that you're reviewing, so and your review dates, obviously. So you've got everything here. What are the areas of responsibility that John has? What are the key outcomes for that? So again, using SMART principles, so you want to make sure that it's a goal that you're setting that's specific, it's measurable, it's achievable, it's realistic, and it's timely. So you've got a timed goal. And with the actual performance, what's actually happening in this job right now? And then include the review date. So when are you going to be reviewing that specific goal or that specific task again? You've got your little space for your signatures. And then we've got our area for development. So what is it that John's wanting to develop in? Is there something that he wants to upskill himself in? What is it? So you just want to let me know in the areas for development here, just list them. And then what actions you're taking to make sure that he's developing in that area or that skill. And that is the end of assessment 2. Assessment 3 is, again, similar to assessment 2, where it's mainly just a role play and then a template that you're filling out. This role play is a little bit different as it's not a performance appraisal. It's more of a counseling session. So again, you want to have maybe a think about how your communication is going to be here. If you're doing this in person or it's a video, what your body language should be and everything else, because this whole unit is really focused on your ability to demonstrate your communication skills and how they need to be altered depending on the situation. So in assessment 2, you're really just doing a performance appraisal as a leader and an employee and just kind of making a plan of how we can improve. Whereas in this one, you've received a complaint email from a corporate customer about a specific employee, and you're really going to go forward with this one and kind of find what the problem was and maybe if there's a big issue at hand. So with this one, you're going to conduct your counseling session with your employee, and during the counseling session, you must identify the area of underperformance. So where is this person underperforming? What's the root of the problem? Using questioning techniques to identify reasons for the performance problem. So again, you really want to think about your the way that you're communicating in this one as well. It's something that I really do look for, whether it's being approached with empathy or sensitivity or anything like that. You want to agree on solutions to address your performance problems with the employee. So again, it's not just you saying, this is what we're going to do. It should be an open communication channel to make sure that there's rapport being built, that there's trust being built, and that it's that it's agreeing on solutions together. And agreeing on follow-up steps to be undertaken. So again, you're really looking at monitoring and reviewing these steps and everything else as well. And again, it's with the agreement of the employee themselves to agree to the follow-up steps that you're undertaking. You're also going to be documenting your discussion on the poor performance meeting record. So with this poor performance meeting record, again, it's just a table that you're filling out. So with this one here, it's just the name of your staff member. So I believe it's Alex, the manager conducting the interview, which would be yourself, your interview date and time, and any witnesses in attendance. So you can choose whether you want to make up a witness for this if the employee has chosen to have a third party present. If not, it would just be not applicable. You want to discuss here your discussion points. So what did you discuss in the meeting with Alex? And just jot down your points here. So again, not big sentences or anything, just dot points is fine. What did you cover off on? What was the staff member's response? So again, dot points, what did Alex respond with? Did he have any insight into the behavior or anything like that? Was there any like specific issues mentioned? Anything like that? Your agreed actions is how you're going to rectify the situation and how it's agreed upon. So your employee is going to be, I guess, putting their 2 cents in as well, making sure that you guys are coming to a resolution together. So what are your resolutions and what time frames have you put in place for those? So is he taking time off? Is it going to be weekly reviews, fortnightly, monthly, up to you? But yeah, you'll be able to discuss this in your role play as well. And when's your review time frame? So when are you going to be reviewing the plan for Alex's performance and his outcomes? So again, it could be a specific date that you're putting in there. It might be an actual time frame of, you know, in 1 month's time, in 2 months' time, up to you. Then you've got your little formal thing of the record of the meeting is correct as witnessed by. So you can just print your names in there, so staff member, manager, if there was a witness, if there was a company witness, anything like that, and just make sure that you date it. So it is a formal document, so you're making sure that you want all of this to be completed. So that is task A. Another role play. For task B, it's going to be more of a positive thing here again, so a formal email. So it's saying, well done on getting your team to work towards the agreed performance standards. So yay you're making some progress. The organization has noticed the effort and management appreciates the increased satisfaction of our customers. It is important to maintain the motivation of your employees by recognizing and rewarding their efforts. The domestic team manager would like to know how you're going to achieve this. So basically the gist here is that your boss is asking how you're going to make sure that your employees are being recognized and being rewarded for their amazing effort. So you can write this as a formal email. So do address it correctly to your domestic team manager. You can make up a name if you want to, but you really want to make sure that it's professional because you're putting forward some recommendations of how you can reward your team and recognize them. So again, this is completely up to you how you want to do it. It's a 2 to 3 paragraph report, but how do you want to reward and recognize your team for their achievements? So again, completely up to you. It might have something to do with your leadership style, anything like that, but have a think about how you would like to be rewarded and recognized if you were in this team. If you were doing such amazing turnarounds or you'd improve so much, what kind of things would you want to, I guess, to reward you with? So what would motivate you? So for me, it might be, you know, an extra day off or a weekend trip or something with the team. That would be something cool. But you really want to make sure that your recommendations are realistic and within reason. So my example here is that you're not going to reward your team with an extra $1 million because that's just not something that's realistic. Maybe if you worked for like Google or something, that would be cool. But you really want to make sure that your motivations here, your 2 recommendations are something that are realistic and that is achievable really for the team, and that would motivate them. So just to recap again for assessment 3, you've got a complaint email that you've received from a corporate customer. So this is the reason for your counseling session really with your relevant employee, which is Alex. And you're going to be having this meeting according to the management of poor performance procedures, which is, again, is a PDF document downloadable on your LMS. You can do this, again, over the phone with me in class or over Skype, or you can do it with a friend or family member and film it, send it in through the LMS, or copy and paste the link into your assessment for an unlisted YouTube video, completely up to you. You just really want to make sure that your counseling session is identifying your area of underperformance, so where is he going wrong? Using questioning techniques to identify reasons for the performance problem. And again, make sure that your communication style is open and it's in the right tone, I guess, for this specific role play. You want to agree on solutions and agree on follow-up steps to be undertaken, and you're going to document your discussion in the poor performance meeting record. Self-explanatory really, these ones. So you just want to make sure that all of it's filled out. So your name of the staff member, who's conducting the interview, which would be your name, your interview date and time, any witnesses in attendance if there are any, what were your discussion points. So you really want to make sure that everything is discussed here. So you might have 5-6 points. What your staff member response was. So did they offer any insight into their behavior or an underlying reason for anything? What your agreed actions are to be able to rectify the situation, including any timeframes, and when you're reviewing this plan for Alex. You also want to make sure that the end of this stuff is really nicely printed off, like all your names printed in and everything else, just to make sure it looks like a formal record. And then moving on to task B, you're making your formal email to your domestic team manager, where you're recommending two strategies that would be able to reward and recognize the team for their amazing achievement. Making sure to keep in mind that they are realistic and that they're actually within reason. So not giving $1 million to every single employee because they've been so good. Even if you wish you could, it's probably not something you'd be able to do. And on to the last one. So assessment 4 is a really awesome written questions assessment. So all of the learning content on the LMS and any kind of outside research that you might need to do will help you with this one. So you're explaining, you got 19 questions. So one of them, you're explaining why understanding the roles and functions performed by managers is important in a workplace. Some of these questions, like the first one as well, especially, could just be a common knowledge or general knowledge thing. So why would it be important for the managers to understand what the roles and the functions are? So why is it important for the team really to know what that is? You're listing and explaining 3 different leadership styles. So there are a lot of different leadership styles. I can think of 7 straight up. So this is something that you could just research as well and just explain what 3 different ones are. So you really want to tell me maybe what the differences are between them. So you've got your 3 that you've chosen. Why are they different? Is there any benefits to specific ones? What kind of leaders would they make? Describe 4 characteristics of effective leadership. So again, describe. So you can list them and then just give me like a little description of each characteristic of effective leadership and how it's effective. What are 4 characteristics of effective teams? So you're just listing here characteristics of effective teams. So whether it's open communication or respect or whatever, but that's up to you. Explain why employees need to know the role and attributes of their team members. So why is it important for them to understand the role of the rest of the team? So and individuals and everything else, what would be the benefit of that? Why is the organization of teams important in a workplace? So again, this might be just a general knowledge thing, or you can just go off the top of your head for why it's important that teams are organized in a workplace. What are the benefits again of that? Describe 2 problems that a team may encounter. So this can be literally anything. What problems could a team encounter that might be counterproductive or making them less effective in the workplace? What are 3 benefits of effective teamwork? So just listing the benefits of why working in a team properly is awesome. Outline a theory of motivation and explain how it is used in an organization. So this will be either in your LMS content, or you want to Google that one about theories of motivation. And just choose one and explain how it could be used in an organization. You can use your travel consultant organization as an example if you want to, otherwise just kind of use it as a general thing. Explain the importance of group dynamics in a workplace. So again, explaining why, like how groups work and everything in a workplace, why that's important. So explaining maybe if they have different roles within the group and everything, why it's important for that dynamic to work. You're also explaining how organizational plans are used in team planning. So if you could pull on your own experience as well in a workplace, if you have organizational plans, how are they used in your team plans as well? So it's something that we've touched on throughout this assessment quite a lot, in having your own objectives line up with the company objectives. So how is that going to be used in your team plan? Why should leaders monitor staff performance and provide feedback and coaching? So why is it important for them to actually monitor what their staff is doing? And why is it important to provide feedback and coaching? What are the benefits? Outline the key elements of performance standards and explain how they relate to performance management. So again, you're going to be looking back on your performance standards that we've been using within this as well as an example. So you've got your performance standards that you're holding them to with the performance plans, and then how would they relate to performance management? So this will be more about reviewing and monitoring and everything, comparing them as well. So this, you can use ours within this assessment as an example of that. You're explaining why organizations conduct performance appraisals. So again, self-explanatory really here. Why do managers do performance appraisals? What do they get out of it? What does a team member get out of it? What's the purpose? Explain 3 areas which should be included in performance appraisal documents. So what do you think is important to have in a performance appraisal document? So you can use what we've been using as well and just find out what we've used and then explain why those need to be included in there. Or you can have a look at different ones online as well. So there might be organizations that do it differently. There might be other places that have different ideas of what should be in a performance appraisal document. But you really just want to look at 3 areas that should be included and explain those. You're also describing 3 methods of appraising performances. So it might not just be a document. It could be a different way that people appraise. So whether it's, on the job observations or something like that, that might be a way that you want to appraise a performance. So that could be something you could describe. Why do organizations have procedures to conduct performance appraisals? So why do organizations have specific procedures to be able to document a performance appraisal? So again, this is probably just like a common knowledge thing, or otherwise you can do some research as well to find out why procedures exist for these. You also want to outline a procedure for a formal counselling session. So what could the procedure be for a formal counselling session? Again, I'll probably do some research online. There's probably a lot of different sources of information that would take you through this, but there'd be some kind of common denominators there that you'd be able to discuss. And the last question is, what is the purpose of an organization's grievance procedure? So another type of word for grievance, I guess, would be your complaints. So why would there be a purpose of an organization's complaints procedure, or where you're able to provide feedback or any kind of improvements for your organization? So you really want to make sure that these are properly answered. So I would go for, full sentences and everything else, not just dot points, unless it's just listing some things. But really, when it's asked you to describe or explain, really describe it to me and really explain it to me. So if you just say, describe 4 characteristics of effective leadership and you just list 4, I'm going to send it back to ask you what more could you say about it, just to explain it to me. And that is the end of your unit of effective leadership cluster. So you're really looking forward to the role plays. I know it's going to be amazing. So really what I think the most important thing about this unit is to kind of keep in mind is just the tone. So the tone of your role plays, the tone of your written communication, your PowerPoint presentation, just making sure that it's all really quite positive, because as a leader in this whole scenario, you're your team's biggest advocate. So that is my little 2 cents I'll put in over there. Oh, look at us. We'll just go through that. We've recapped everything. So where to from here? So from here, feel free to rewatch the webinar, skip forward to the places that you need, or, pause and take notes. But basically from here, I would love to hear from you if you have any other questions. So email, text, call, smoke signals, whatever. Otherwise, work on your assessments. Get them all done, hopefully with a lot more clarity now, and being able to submit and get that green tick on the first try. So that will be the dream. Any questions or concerns? So feel free, to email me, call me, text me, pigeon carrier, whatever works for you. I'm available on Skype, on phone, for calls or texts. Texts are amazing as well. Emails, anything like that. You can also message me directly through your LMS if you don't have any of my contact details or anything like that. But there are my contact details. So you can call me on my mobile at any time. I also have the landline available to us as well. You can email me, or if I'm not available, the student support inbox is amazing. So the rest of the team is also there to help you as much as they can. So you can also give your mentor a call if you have any questions, or you just want to go through something really quickly. Again, just with the role plays, because this unit has like the most ever, feel free to call me just to do those role plays, and then ask some questions if you want to. You don't have to have separate calls or anything like that. Otherwise, feel free to get a friend or a family member if they want to do it with you to just record that and then have that as a video file. So support available to all the mentors. What's next is you're going to be uploading hopefully for me. I would love to see these come through. A lot of students just kind of get these on a roll and just all of a sudden I've got 4 assessments sitting there like in one hit, and that's 1 unit done in a day. So that's completely possible. If that's something that you want to achieve, just let me know. Set up a coaching call with me, or start sending me some emails, and I'll make that happen with you, which is pretty exciting. But that is the end of my amazing webinar on your 3rd unit, and I will see you for the next one. So I just want to say thanks to everybody, and I can't wait to mark off your assessments. Bye, everyone.